There you go, Massimo. So you have the floor, and what Massimo is going to do is going to moderate the panel, the discussion. And if there's any questions that you have as to why have we joined, what do you see as the benefits, what's the risks, or anything else, feel free to jump in the chat, or even put your hand up, and we'll bring you back in for a back and forth.
Thank you.
Massimo, you have the floor.
I have the chance to co-moderate this virtual table with such an amazing crowd of innovators. And I love very much mathematics, but I learned in my life that sometimes 1 + 1 is not 2, but 1 + 1 can be more than 2. And I strongly feel that the merger between, or cooperation or merger between AIOP and GIMI is going really to give us strength to democratize innovation and make really innovation something that people can feel. Allow me to give you an example. Here in Europe, the European Banking Association is giving more credit to those companies who show to have some innovation processes going on. Between GIMI and AIOP, we have, I think, among the best content, the best methodologies, the experiences, and we have also the ISO tag or the certification. And this is going to give really a greater standing to make GIMI AIOP something that is really the thought leader in innovation certification. This is something that I strongly feel there is a strong need for that. Otherwise, the market is way too fragmented. I see so many innovation management courses coming up around Europe, and sometimes the quality is really lacking. People who had some experience in innovation, but they really don't know how to make innovation real. This is something that is going to be cancelled by the standing that the two companies are going to have. So coming back to my question, and one thing, I heard a very nice video where Hitendra said that we do not, GIMI and AIOP doesn't want to have just 1 million certificates in 5 years, but 10 million. So we will have a crowd of like-minded people, motivated people who can go out and improve the world, something that the world needs. So my point about 1 + 1 is more than 2. Am I right, HP? Am I right, Brett?
Yeah. Actually, if you don't mind, let's please bring Brett in here so we can kind of discuss this and see how this works, because I think the dialogue will be a more powerful thing. From our GIMI perspective, we recognize that we were not complete. There were complementary pieces missing on GIMI for it to truly achieve its mission of 1 million people certified around the world on innovation. That was one part of it. There was also the fact that the world was moving pretty fast. And as we saw GIMI moving, GIMI was moving well, but we need to move faster in the world that's changing even faster than we've ever imagined before. So by joining forces, we felt that 1 + 1 would be 3, as you said, Massimo. And in this way, we also get the brain power of all the leadership team of the IAOIP and all the strategies and techniques that they've thought about doing, combine that with the GIMI strategies, and we should be able to come up with even something much far better. So absolutely agree on the 1 + 1 is greater than 3, but the logic behind that was the world is moving faster and we were not moving fast enough. And by joining forces with complementary skills and people with the same sort of values and the same sort of mission and vision, which Brett represents with his organization, was a logic for us as to why we've also moved very quickly in everything we've done so far. Brett, I don't know what your thoughts were, but in terms of how fast the world was moving and how 1 + 1 would actually be 3, 4, 5.
Well, and you know, I'm pleased to see Tom Brazil here, by the way, if anybody gets a chance to get to know Tom. Tom was one of the driving forces on the board of directors with IOIP, but I think he can admit that eventually, you know, we kind of, in some respects, bit off more than we could chew. And so we were chronically, administratively behind the 8 ball. And without generating enough revenue to support all the initiatives we were doing. I mean, it's a common mistake that organizations make, but we rounded up really great people, really great content, and then we come over to GIMI because GIMI's got an amazing administrative function. The operations that for those of you who are with IOIP, the administration of GIMI is truly impressive, and so they were doing one thing really great, we were doing something else really great, and now we're going to do two things really great at least. And since it's as Massimo said, the 1 + 1 can equal 3, 4, 5 in this context because of what we're now able to accomplish.
Thank you.
Yeah, Massimo, just to add to the 1 + 1, what was the 1 + 1? What was the other one that we saw in IAOIP that we didn't have? And IAOIP had done a tremendous job in terms of creating a body of knowledge. The innovation management, the global innovation management of science textbook that was put together. That's an incredible amount of intellectual property put together into one place that can be shared very easily. That brings credibility, and people were asking for that, saying, if I want to learn more about this topic, where do I get that? They put together professors from around the world who were writing articles, and those journal articles were available to their members. We were much more, not as academic, we were very much for management consulting. And so in management consulting, our papers were 1 page or 2 pages at the most, high-level summaries, without sometimes even data to support what we were saying, very much hypothesis-driven. And now we got research-driven, data-driven research supporting this hypothesis together also. So we really have melded what I would say a combination of how management consulting approaches the challenges, how academia attacks this, and bring it together. And now we've got theory and hypothesis and methodologies all coming together. It's amazing.
Exactly. This is the way I felt HP also from the academic point of view. I saw some papers, the publications by AIOP. They are really great, very well thought, and really give a great standing. And I like very much what Praveen Gupta wrote, 1 and 1 side by side become 11. I like.
And by the way, I just said something about Tom Brazil, but the book that Hitendra is referring to was written by Praveen and myself in 2013, and it's due for an update. So that's one of the things that we're promising. HP has made me commit to updating the book one way or the other, and I'm excited to do it. I've been wanting to do it for a while, but it's an edited book, and so each chapter is written by someone different. And with the larger membership base, it's going to be easier to find the experts to contribute to the body of knowledge, and that also is a real plus.
And if I'm not wrong, we are the two entities have a global presence. We are present in more than 120 countries now, right?
Yeah, IOIP was in 118 last I checked. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much of that was overlap and how much of that's going to be new. But yeah, about 120 countries, I think.
I don't know how many organizations worldwide active in innovation have the same footprint as we will have. The group, yeah. It's impossible. It's unique.
So Massimo, maybe for the people who are listening in, the approach both organizations took to become global was slightly different. Right, so our approach was in GIMI historically was to find training partners, people who wanted to train other people on innovation by giving them the content, giving them the methodology, and then basically being focused on certification and testing. And that's what GIMI was focusing on by finding training partners. So we don't have as many many geographies as IAOIP does. IAOIP went down a different path. And they said, look, let's open this thing up into a membership model. And this membership model would say, come and join the association and have access to the knowledge, access to the experts, access to each other, and build a community. And you guys figure out what you want to do and do more with it. So we were a little bit more intentional in terms of the business model of saying, let's find certified training partners in different countries. Let's make sure that they're thinking of trying to generate lots of revenue from the training. And therefore, they will be motivated in marketing the local market. They will be motivated in seeing it from a business perspective. And that was the value proposition we were providing, on one side. But our ability to scale was far slower in terms of going to every country, because we were looking for certified training partners who could do $1 million to $2 million of training a year. And therefore, there aren't that many people everywhere in the world to do that. And so our membership was large, because our training partners were training hundreds of people and thousands of people. So we were able to get members through our trained partners. While IOP went out there and says, look, we are a community and join us. And IOP has got a large membership also, and two different models. And each one of them has got a business model associated to it. Each one requires a different type of complexity to manage all the relationships. And we had chosen one that was a strategic choice. But now I think we can join and combine those two models together. And that combination, I think, should unleash incredible amount of creativity, resources, assets, to be able to do all the things that Brett had talked about wanting to do, as well as what GIMI has wanted to do. I think now we can actually unleash that creativity, resource, power to do anything. Brett, I don't know if you've got complimentary thoughts or anything different in what you're thinking about here.
Yeah, and it is interesting, because when we first started our conversations, it was basically, Jimmy's got the marketing, the operational, the training stuff, which we were never as successful as we'd like to be, but we've been more focused on the educational aspect of it, the academic papers, the conferences, things like that. And then, of course, COVID just killed our conference business, which, as most of you know, I'm just pleased that we got through COVID and didn't die, because we had as much money as we did coming through conferences. So we were more focused on educating, that brings a little more of the educational focus in. One of the things that that HP, so HP is my boss now. One of the things that he tasked me with was bringing the new organization into compliance with ISO 17024, which is the standard for certifying bodies that certify individuals. So I've started road mapping that out. So you'll see some changes around that, but I don't think it'll affect the day-to-day operations at all. It'll just more formalize the process in a way that we can achieve ANSI ISO accreditation as a certifying body. And that's exciting too, because we feel like we've had conversations with government officials before, and they've said, well, one of the problems we have is we're mandated by the higher authorities to include questions about innovation in our request for proposal. And it's kind of subjective. So someone can say, well, we had 10 patents last year. Well, if you're some guy in a garage, that's amazing. If you're IBM, it's like, well, what's wrong with you? So you throw in that subjectivity. What the government, some of the governments we anticipate are gonna start doing is saying, how many certified innovation professionals do you have from an accredited certifying body, which then is a very objective measure. And so we think that that's part of what's going to happen over the coming years, especially as the ISO standard 279 continues to roll out.
And if I can comment on that, Massimo, when GIMI started, GIMI its history comes out of management consulting from Arthur D. Little and the Monitor Group, and all our knowledge was actually acquired through actually doing the work in Fortune 5000 companies. And so the work at Cemex, the work at LG, the work at Pepsi, and all the great companies out there, we were helping them build innovation management systems. And through learning what to do and what not to do, particularly what not to do, we evolved into methodologies on how to do it quicker, faster, and better, and how to manage innovation, portfolio management, pipeline management, all that was done. And so when GIMI was formed, the GIMI board and the directors felt at that moment that universities were not teaching this. And this is back in the 2005-10, where innovation as a word was still trying to be well defined. So we accelerated out there and we said, look, we need to train thousands of people. We need to give them certificates and everything else. And people will ask, who's certified GIMI to give certification? And at that moment, we had basically said, who's certified Harvard Business School to actually give out Harvard degrees. And so at some point in the early stages of the world, when things start, there isn't a certification body on a certification body. And ISO was certainly there, and we said this ISO is not ready at that moment to be able to certify innovation, because the ISO is still putting its arms around what is innovation and is it a management discipline back then. And so we moved forward very quickly, but we realized very quickly over time, as ISO begins to figure out what's going on and puts its arms around this thing and say, we need a discipline around this particular topic. And Brett and his organization went right down that path and says, let's really work closely with ISO and make sure that we democratize innovation through the ISO platform, while we were trying to democratize it through basically our sheer power of being able to go out there and do that. We now know the path is actually together. And we need to somehow be ISO, and we also need to be ISO approved as a certification body. And now with us joining forces, every one of you out there who's been doing any of the certifications, trainings, you will soon be able to get a stamp which says that GIMI is also certified to give certificates, number one. And the second part of this thing is we also have working closely through IAIP on the ISO standards and the tag and everything else for global stuff. And that's remarkable work. I want to make sure everybody who was listening, the team at IAIP has done remarkable work in taking what I would call fragmented knowledge of innovation, pulling it together with agreement and alignment of probably about 50 to 100 prima donnas. And that's our space. Our space is there's lots of prima donnas who believe they know everything about innovation, and to make them agree that this is the body of knowledge that we should all work together on. So first of all, congratulations, Brett and IOP for accomplishing that, at least getting out the documents and now moving forward. But I see value in that. So I'll stop there, Massimo, and if there's any other questions.
No, HP, I guess that really this credibility and track record that you are indicating, and also the global presence, is something that is going to give us really strength and will help us to reach our goals, to make innovation a discipline and innovation management a profession. That's something that really I try to do every day, and people want to do it. I see they have the need, they have the wish to innovate and to change, to see forward, to understand what is coming, what if, and what's next. That's something that we are going to have a positive impact on the world, all the world. One question, as we have people from both communities online, shall we open to some questions now and then take it from there? Or would we like HP and Brett to give more insights? I would take some questions maybe, because so we are more focused on the community. So I see Robert Miller, synergies make sense. Thank you very much. Questions? Or if there are concerns, please let us know. You can turn on your mic. No questions. Maybe may I ask, I liked, Robert, your chat or your post, the synergy makes a lot of sense. May I ask what you mean with that? Or
well, so just, I mean, as a brief introduction, I'm with a company called Get2, and we're an innovation consultant, and we focus on actually tech scouting and tech monetization. I've been running the tech monetization practice for quite some time. Don't tell anyone else at Get2, but I think some of what you described in terms of, I don't know, vetted innovation training is really an issue, because we do some innovation training, but frankly, it's not necessarily based on the latest and greatest thinking. A little bit of what we would call here motherhood and apple pie. And I think that there do need to be some standards, because I think it's very, very difficult for those folks out there who want to innovate and become better at innovating to, to kind of sort through and filter the providers out there, the information sources out there. And so I think what you're describing here, this combination of your two organizations, can do a lot to, I guess, kind of lubricate the process, if you would, to give folks out there. How can I put this? Many of the folks that come to us have already, over 10 or 15 years, worked with multiple companies to try to understand how they can innovate better, and they've not succeeded at that. So, oh, sorry, single. So that's kind of where I see the collection of these two organizations, or the integration, creating critical mass, working towards standards. And I think one of the best ways that the community of users, let's say, can benefit is by having a source that they can trust, that they know is going to deliver them quality. So that's that's kind of my main point.
Thank you.
Great.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, Robert, great point. And I think we recognize that there's a couple of things. There are arguments out there which says, how can you actually standardize innovation process when innovation by itself is supposed to be about change and flexibility and creativity and all that. And there is a basic need to lift everybody up to what I would call improving the IQ of an organization or an individual, which can benefit with standards, right? And then there is, of course, the things that makes you a little different and better, in your ability to get intelligence faster, your ability to see ideas and connect the dots better and quicker, to be able to test those things faster, quicker. And we are going into a 21st century, simulation world, digital world, where we can do a lot of those things. And those are things where those basic things we should certainly be driving. We should be experimenting through a think tank about what are the next ideas on how to do ideation better, how to connect the dots better, how to actually do testing better, how to do simulation, how to do wargaming, all those things that we do normally in the old-fashioned way. How do we do it better with the technology that we have? And so we need two parts of GIMI IORP. One is that basic that we get out for those who have never done this at all, and we help them get smarter and better. And we need to also have another section where we says, what's next, what else? What's next, what else? On our body of knowledge. And I think if we can create that community within ourselves, we'll be the first ones to be able to experiment with those, try them, and hopefully win in your respective organizations. Because that's what Procter & Gamble wants. Procter & Gamble doesn't want an ISO standard, which is the same as everybody else's. They want a standard, and they want to be plus on that. They want to be much better than that, because if they're the same as Unilever, then there's no value in that. So they are looking for something more than that. And so we've got to balance out the conversation. Are we taking from 0 to 1 or to 2? Or are we taking from 4 to 5 and 6? And there are two different levels that we have to approach and make sure that we're serving both communities out there. Because if we serve the one to the top, which is where we historically came from, we were always looking for the nuance on the innovation. But if we want to train 10,000 companies in Colombia, in Brazil, or around the world, or in universities, then we need to come back down to some standards. And so this is the balancing act that we'll have to do. And well, I don't know if it's Robert or Bob, but I certainly hope
Bob,
you'll be part of this conversation on that. Okay.
Yeah, great.
And Bob, I'd just like to add to that. Putting on my business school professor hat, one of the hallmarks of something becoming a true profession is that you start communicating with common words and phrases and et cetera, et cetera. Well, there's a lot I don't like about ISO 56000, and I've been the secretariat for the US chapter or tag for a while now. But I can say that 56,000, which is the double zeros on a standard, usually refer to vocabulary. So if we're all using the same words, that's very helpful. And that one of the standards that they produced that I really like, and I believe it's 56,004, is partnerships. So if we go into an open innovation environment, it really helps that the two companies are speaking the same language. Otherwise, we're all on a Tower of Babel, right? And that's the stuff that we're trying to advocate for. Tom says 56,003 is partnerships. Thank you, Tom. 56,003. That's a great standard, in my opinion. And for precisely that is to move this beyond everybody doing different things, everybody using different approaches to at least a common language. Whether or not we still have 3 or 4 methodologies, we all understand each other's methodologies and we speak the same language. Critical part of a profession, which is where we need to get with innovation.
Thank you, Brett. Questions are coming in. I see Professor Bob, you raised your hand as first.
Thank you. Bob Schultz, Haskell School of Business at the University of Calgary. I kind of an extension in terms of the certification, and that is that there's 56002, the 27024, 20. So what's the difference for those? And is there an opportunity for our combination here to be certified in all of those and kind of do some integration, whereas our major competitor thinks that they're certified and they've certified more people than we have, which I don't think is true.
Yeah, I don't know what they've done around ISO. Frankly, I probably should, but I don't. I can just tell you that around the world now, especially with this combination, we're sitting in leadership positions across ISO all over the world. We've got people who are on the tags in different countries representing, et cetera. And that was one of our goals, is to say, can we just seed the IOIP into most of these tags around the world so that we can kind of by proxy have everybody's input. Technically, you're not supposed to work together, you're not supposed to talk to each other, but the input across the globe. And Rick Fernandez is the chair of the ISO 279 here in the US. And I have to admit, him and Frank Voll have done a really good job of reaching out across the globe, seeing what everybody's thinking, and it's been very helpful. Now the 17024 is something completely different. That's just the certification of individuals. Set those two aside into completely different buckets. The ISO 279, which is the 56,000 series, is still in process. And at some point, there will be 56,001, which is an auditable standard. But I'm not sure that uptake, it's debatable whether companies are going to actually do that or not. But certifying individuals, I think, is easy for governments. Certifying companies, it's an expensive, arduous process. Think of ISO 9000 and how long it took even for the US to adopt it. It took a long time. And I think companies are sometimes dubious about the value of it. But having individuals that understand quality is a big deal for companies. And so certifying individuals via the 17024, that's a big deal for companies to have people inside the organization that know how to do innovation. Not entirely sure that having organizations certified is going to take off. I don't know that it's as important, but we don't have to worry about that as much as we do the individuals at this point.
Thank you.
If I can add Massimo to the certification and standards, what we jointly want to make sure is when somebody gets certified as an individual, or if an organization gets certified through the GIMI IOIP umbrella, that certification should be a plus to whatever the ISO certification which are emerging. At this moment, there are no certifications at all around ISO, around this thing. They're still putting the body of knowledge and the test and the questions together. As they emerge, we will make sure that all the things that we are talking about includes ISO, and hopefully there'll be a plus on it. And ISO will see the work that we do as almost like a think tank, that we'll be leading the world in creating what's next and what else. And then when ISO tag gets together again for the next version of whatever it's going to be working on, we have given them enough input and fodder to the work that we have done so that we can lift the whole community even up higher as we do that. So our job is to remain preeminent as an organization. We should be amongst us, the thought leaders, saying what's next in terms of portfolio management, what's next in terms of finding your innovation focus for strategy, what's next in terms of how we do KPIs and metrics to do that, and not directionally, but what's the nuances that really make it stick, what's the nuances that makes it real, and what's the things that is going to make a big difference. So we want to make sure, as all of you are listening, we want as an organization to be seen around the world as preeminent thought leaders and actionable. I want to make sure the word actionable remains in our conversation, because there is no value in any association which is trying to pass knowledge that is not actionable, that creates value for our members and our clients and anybody gets to certified. So if you put that together, I believe we have an incredibly bright future working side by side with ISO, not in conflict or in competition, side by side, and hopefully even weaving each other back and forth like that to come up with stronger and better ideas of what's next and what else.
Thank you, HP. I see here a question from John Rains. John, can you please tell me if Brett's answered your question about the input of the ISO 5600 series? How are you inputting the great body of knowledge into the working groups?
So to answer that, the new book, which we sort of started thinking about, but now, this gives me more time because I'm not having to deal with day-to-day operations, is specifically going to say, let's go back and visit the chapters that we had in the past and see if they're still important. And then we have permission from ANSI to include, if you're a chapter writer, we can give you access, and HP, we haven't done this yet. So if Aurelia is still on the line, we have a page just for the authors where they can go in. They can't download the standard because that would be illegal, but they can read the standard, and then they can rewrite their chapter and orient their chapter around what's going on in 56,000. And so the new book will have that all integrated into it. It may take up to a year to do. Depends on how much work Praveen Gupta wants to do. But HP will bring him in and stuff, and it's going to include all of it and weave it into it.
Looking forward to that, Brett, and collaborating with the Gupta and everybody else on this group. I think it's important where sometimes GIMI's focus has been and IOIP's focus for the group. GIMI has been paying attention to actually getting results for individuals and results for companies using innovation for growth. So it really pays attention to that. And part of its success has been that it has simplified, and I want to make sure I explain this well. It's taken a lot of complexity of what innovation management is and innovation processes are, and it's taken out things that were considered important by many wise people, but unfortunately were too clumsy or hard to actually share and spread. And so we took things out to simplify from everything to what is today our body of knowledge, which is very actionable. And so this actionable set of tools are powerful, but they lack sometimes a theory as to why we do what we do. And for those who are trying to figure out what the theory is, I think now with the IOIP depth of the theory and the knowledge, we are now going to connect a very actionable methodology with the deep thinking of PhDs and professors and who have done research and all that together. And I think that's going to be fantastic how we meld the two things together, because all of us want to be not only a practitioner with results, but also an expert on the topic, that you can spend hours talking about it, as well as just talk about how to just get things done and get started.
Thank you, HP. I see two questions. The first hand was by Cristanto, and then Truls, and then we have other questions coming in the chat. Cristanto.
Yes, good evening, everybody from Jakarta. It's a pleasant surprise that in this forum, I met my senior, Professor Bambang Setiadi, who was actually the chairman of our National Standard Board. So he has got a lot of experience about ISO. And later after that, then he was a chairman of our National Research Board for 2 terms. So I think we need to listen to Professor Bambang Setiadi, what you have to say, please.
I think you're putting somebody on the spot. Well done, Cristanto. So I'm not sure if his microphone is on.
I think it's muted, Professor Setiadi.
Sorry.
It's muted.
Yes, okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Cristanto. It is not fair because you invite me to talk here. So yes, actually, I was the chairman of ISO DEFCO. This is a kind of 134 development country in ISO. So I learned a lot about the standard. So my question is, if we want to talk about the standard of innovation, the question is what the definition we want to standardize. Because Indonesia now, what you call it, I introduced to our government that the most easy to start to understand about the innovation is by using the formula that introduced by Edward Robert from MIT. He said that innovation is invention time commercialization. And it is a kind of development from the Nobel Prize winner, Paul Romer. He mentioned in his thesis, Paul Romer said that innovation is kind of development of human resources, not only the material. So my question is, what is the definition of innovation we will to introduce to the standard? We will to use in the standard. Yeah, and then I think it's enough. I think it's but new science coming.
Yeah.
But one of report from IMF, when they analyze about the innovation, they didn't mention what you call that about innovation a lot in their book. They mentioned patent. So there is no innovation without patent.
Yeah.
Why? Because any country in the world, when they want to measure about the development of economy, they don't use innovation. They use patent. There is a lot of documentation you may find from IMF. I learned about it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pak Kristanto.
No, thanks for your question. And let me ask, of course, I brought Ron onto the picture for this thing because Ron's been working on this for years. And he's our senior partner, senior advisor to the GIMI organization. And this is not an easy thing to do, but I think Ron summarizes it nicely in terms of measurable, definition, actionable, and all that. So Ron, I want to give you the floor just to make sure at the high level, what should it be? And then, of course, you got to nuance it for yourself in whatever context is. You're on mute, Ron.
So this was a ongoing debate, 10 years ago when we started our work on emerging best practices in innovation management and how to get the best results from superior processes and efforts associated with innovation. And the definition we found to be the best and the broadest was the creation and capture of new value in new ways. And then it went on to say through new products, new services, new technologies, through a whole bunch of different things, but it was all focused on value to society, value to companies, value to science, but it was value. It was a value-based definition, so it was measurable. It had multiple dimensions, but it incorporated what university research centers were trying to do, what corporate research centers were trying to do, as everybody was trying to evolve from R&D centers to innovation centers. So the focus was what's different about innovation from invention and from R&D. And so it was definitely commercialization. It was creating and capturing value in the marketplace from new things, new ways of doing things, new business models, etc. So we went around and around and around on it and finally agreed on that because it was a big tent that everybody could feel part of. It didn't focus only on technology. It certainly didn't focus only on patents. And it did not say there has to be new technology. It can be a new product, a new service, a new bundle, whatever. but it did need to be new, at least new to the company or new to the community or government or whatever. So that was where we ended up with a definition that was a working definition that was measurable. You could measure what you were doing now. You could measure what you could do next year. So there was expectations management as well as measuring what you had done in the past.
Ron, that's great.
And
Thank you. And Brett, yeah, well, why don't you give where you guys came down?
Yeah, real quick, I agree with Ron. The key is value. I'm a little more broad with it because I use the tree falls in the forest kind of story to say, if I crash on a deserted island in the South Pacific and I invent a way to make unlimited electricity from coconuts and I never get rescued and I die on the island and my little electricity machine washes out to sea, did an innovation not happen? Of course it happened, but it only benefited a single person, and that would have been me, who had my unlimited electricity and my air-conditioned hut and all that kind of stuff. So I see it as a little broader. It doesn't necessarily have to generate revenue, but if someone benefits from it,
it's value.
You're still muted.
It's value,
but it's
not
value.
just revenue. Yeah, it may be very limited, maybe for one person, so it has very limited value. So that doesn't make it a high impact innovation, but it's still an innovation because it created and captured new value. It just didn't get spread around the world.
Just as an introduction to everybody, Ron Jonash was the head of innovation at Arthur D. Little in the 90s. And then he was the head of innovation at the Monitor Group, and basically was doing innovation when people were talking R&D. And the word was very different back then. And so really happy Ron's part of our team. He's a senior advisor to us with Brett. And therefore, again, a lot of confidence on where we need to go, because they've got so much knowledge in pattern recognition of what not to do, as much as what to do.
Thank you, HP. I know we have 11 minutes to go, so let's go from Indonesia to the United States to Norway. Truls, your hand is up.
Yeah, thanks, Massimo, and hi, everyone. And again, congratulations on this merger. That to me makes a lot of sense. I just wanted to say quickly that as the same, and I think also HP has already been pointing that out, that we are quite a few that is already in a position when it comes to the ISO work. And just last week, or actually it's almost 2 weeks ago now, the time flies here. 2 weeks ago, I had a chance to have a quick chat with the ISO Secretary General. He's a guy from Chile. But he was in Norway because Standard Norway just celebrated their 100-year anniversary. And since I'm the chairman of the Norwegian Innovation Management Committee, I was invited, and so was he. So we had this short talk, and basically the short message, because I kind of asked him without really not going into details about GIMI, about the fact that everything is now moving a lot faster. And he said yes, and the new action plan for ISO on a global scale is to partner where it makes sense. And so therefore, I would suggest, HP, that you probably should, when you are in Geneva or nearby, you should probably actually do a meeting with him, because I do think that this is a fantastic opening for a partnership. If I was him, I would jump to the idea of partnering with a merged company that is already in more than 120 countries. That was kind of my just quick little 2 cents of worth in that. But great to be part of this, and it takes time to build it, but this ISO plus that we have been talking about, I do think that is a smart move, and it's probably going to be a smart move the next 5 to 10 years. I agree with everyone that is saying that this is not coming to be a big thing overnight. It's going to take time, as it did with ISO 9000, but it is coming, and it is going to be important. So all that was kind of mine, and back to you. But really good to have this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Truls. We have
Hey,
one question. Oh, sorry.
Is that Tom Brazil? Is that the question you're coming up with, Massimo?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, the International Journal of Innovation Science was founded in around 2007, 2008. Praveen Gupta had it. He pulled it together, and then I immediately took over as, what's it, 2009? It's been a long time. And I presume the role of editor-in-chief. It's in, I think this year already we've had about 50,000 downloads. The impact factor for you academics, it's the highest impact factor journal on innovation. We run at about 4.6 impact factor, which is amazing for a 15-year-old journal. And it is coming over as IOIP GIMI. So if you log in, you'll to the International Journal of Innovation Science, you will perhaps even today see both logos. Now, one of the really cool things for some academics is that IOIP has always made it available for free to paid members. I presume we're going to do something similar to that. There's over 1,000 peer-reviewed, double-blind review, peer-reviewed articles in there, some better than others, but the quality has really gone up. I've already put in my notice. I'm the co-editor-in-chief now with a gentleman named Rodrigo Lobo from Montana State University in the US, and he's doing an amazing job of taking it over. I felt like it was just time for me to hand it off to someone else, but I'll still be there for a year, and you should reach out to Rodrigo if you're interested in publishing, because it is tough though. We only have an 18% acceptance rate, which is a pretty low acceptance rate, but we're publishing 60 papers a year at this point. So it's going to just carry on, and it's a jewel in the crown. So
thank you. It's great, Brett. And Praveen, look at us, all of us, to try and pull these things forward together, and let's get reorganized, re-energized, revitalized, whatever it takes to. I know it's a big effort to do any of this sort of work.
Just a couple of seconds. Brett and I worked for 20 years almost together. Before we did this, I always had his back to my conferences. I had conference at IIT Chicago for innovation and all of that. So I'm excited to see the innovation resources being expanded by bringing this together. So look forward to a lot of progress to be made.
Great, thank you, Dr. Gupta. Okay, Massimo,
could I just say one thing that I think is important in all this that Hitendra has referred to as well, is it is definitely ISO plus. ISO tends to focus on process and process discipline, which is only one part of high performance innovation or innovation management. So what we're talking about here in the definition of it is, how do you measure the results? How do you measure the value that's created and captured? How do you manage the strategic impact, whether it's on the economy or social structure or whatever? So measuring things more than process discipline is a big part of why this is ISO plus. And so I think ISO has stayed away from measuring, which is fine, from measuring results and benefits and impact. But we have focused very much on that. So I think the combination of process discipline with results generation and value generation is something that we can continue to stress in GIMI AIOP.
Great, thank you, Ron. Massimo, if I can maybe kind of bring a wrap, bring this thing to a wrap or something. Maybe just, I'm gonna kind of decrease spotlights a little bit here. So, Massimo, what do we anticipate doing going forward, and why should the community be excited? And the reason the community should be excited is, one, you've got more colleagues now to reach out to across the globe. You've got a far a better group of individuals who might be like-minded to you, and therefore you might be able to do 1 + 1 is 3. We want to increase your interaction with each other as much as we can. So on the first level, there's a platform that IOIP has that we are using now called Trade Wings. I would love all of you to get on that Trade Wing platform. It's like a LinkedIn, or a Facebook equivalent where you guys can ask questions to each other, collaborate as a community, and everything stays there. And it doesn't get lost. And you might say, do we need another LinkedIn type community or not? Well, this is our captive community for making plans, organizing, and everything else. And I think this has been asked for by the GIMI community in the past. And we've been using WhatsApp, which is very powerful. But this platform of TradeWing will be very effective for all of you to reach out directly to each other and not necessarily have a middle person intervening. We want to increase the communication of the ecosystem. We want to increase the horizontal linkages as much as we can without creating the hierarchical ones, exactly what we talk about in innovation management, that break those silos, right? Number one. The second part that we want to really drive forward is this thing called certified training partners. And this is an appeal to the IOIP membership, that if you are a training organization and you have a big footprint in your country, GIMI strategy had been to find those partners and then give you a boost through the branding, through the content, and even some of the thought leaders to come and help you with sales, marketing, or whatever, to try and grow the market for you and increase the amount of people you trained. So we're really looking for, within the community, certified training partners to complement the 26 partners we have right now around the world, to hopefully getting to 194, 5, 6, depending on how many countries there are at the planet at this moment. So we want one in every country if possible. All right. So that's an initiative that we're driving as hard as we can. A flag in every country where there is a training partner. In parallel to the training partner, we're also looking for a certified university partner. Right? A certified university partner is the fact that if we have a university in every country teaching the core materials and the certification content, then that university actually provides another level of credibility to the content level. The content that we have been sharing in GIMI for the last 14 years has been taught in business schools at the Rotman School in Toronto, University of Toronto Business School, at the Hult International Business School, at Thunderbird, Trento in Italy, across the globe in different universities. And those university partners also add credibility to what we are doing, saying this is being taught at the MBA level. So we are looking for one university partner at minimum in every country, so that whoever's there locally can also teach at the university, but to use our strategy to find yourself a university partner to be able to become official in the community that we're building. So that's the appeal for the AOIP members. If you think you have the bandwidth and you have the power to try and train thousands of people or hundreds of people, suggest becoming a CTP, certified training partner. If you are an individual and you're an academic, consider becoming a partner of the organization to say, we have a curriculum, a certification program, and everything else to be able to spread. And that hopefully will make it 1 + 1 is, as Dr. Gupta said, 11, right? So hopefully that will be very nice. Then we have this additional events that we are doing. There are conferences that will come along. There's a conference happening in Colombia in November. And if you are from Latin America, consider going to the conference and meeting each other. And this is supposed to be the biggest innovation conference in Colombia. We also have another one running in parallel at the same time in the Philippines. And this will be with the Ayala Corporation, who will be sponsoring it. So we want to have community groups where we get together and meet and everything else. But also, if you believe you can speak and you got something to present, and you believe that it's insightful, it will be provocative, and our audience would love it, put your hand up and say, hey, I got some good stuff to talk. Number one, we'll get you on our GIMI think tank so you can present and we can validate and you can get practice whether the content you have is really good. But then we can take that content and that individual, get them to conferences, and we are building a speaker series at GIMI, IOP. And the speaker series will allow you to be part of a booklet that people will say, I need an innovation speaker in technology. I need an innovation speaker in hydrogen. I need an innovation speaker on innovation management. I want an innovation speaker about design thinking. I want an innovation speaker in terms of cryptocurrency. And if we can kind of organize this, now we can be a distributor of you and us out to the rest of the world through a speaker series model. So get involved on those fronts. There are other things that are happening. Committees will be formed, and we are looking at you to help us with the committees. As Brett said very clearly, we want to get the ANSI standards in certification for the organization done, and that forces us to form certain types of committees. And we look forward to you guys joining those committees and helping us move forward also. But I just want to say, Massimo, I'm very excited about the forces that we by joining together. I already feel the energy, and I feel the ideas which are coming, working with Brett side by side, that there's so many things that we can do. And then in each one of our respective networks, how many powerful people do we have? And if we can just get everybody to work together and move in our ecosystem together, I believe we will be able to do things which are bigger, bolder, and better, faster and cheaper, and be able to achieve, as we said, Massimo, not 1 million people, but 10 million people in the next 5 years in terms of certification training. So I'm going to stop there.
Can I end the discussion with one of the first things you said, together we can?
Yeah.
Shall we end?
Yeah. So as we hit 10 o'clock over here, the philosophy of every meeting that we have, we usually wrap it up by saying, look, what the challenges we have are tremendous. What we're trying to do is big and bold. Alone, we'll probably not be able to achieve it. But we are very confident that together we can. And as Ron would add,
we will.
There you go. Thank you very much.
It.